Working on a plan to address the state's newest COVID-19 metric for a safe reopening. ABC 10 News reporter Anthony Pura breaks down what the new metric will mean for San Diego County to move to a less restrictive tier.
We are focusing on those areas where communities have decreased resources.
San Diego County health officials have another metric to monitor on its road to reopening more sectors of the county. Since California released its new tiered reopening system, case rates and positivity rates have determined what and how businesses should open and operate. San Diego County's current state calculated adjusted case rate is 6.5 daily new infections per 100,000 people, putting the county in the substantial or red tier. This is the tier that allows many indoor operations to be open, though at a limited capacity. San Diego County needs the case rates below 3.9 and maintain that for 2 weeks before it's allowed to move into orange or moderate and allow businesses to operate with less restrictions. The county's positivity rate is at 3.5. That metric already meets the criteria for the orange tier. In addition, the state added a health equity metric. This is new. The metric won't be a factor in moving San Diego County to a more restrictive tier, but it will play a role in moving it to a less restrictive tier. The metric focuses on disadvantaged communities and the risk to COVID-19. The state looked at several factors that influence health in communities, including economics, education, transportation, social, neighborhood and environment, and housing conditions. San Diego County's current equity metric is 6.2, which puts it in the red. That number needs to drop below 5.2 to meet the orange tier criteria. The county has to submit a health equity plan to the state by next Thursday. They are expecting guidelines from the state on Monday. County officials say since the pandemic started, they've been paying attention to communities that may have limited resources, but say more can still be done.
And so what we're fighting against is generations of folks not having access to health care. What we're fighting against is an environment that was created pre-COVID where a lot of communities in San Diego don't trust government agencies and government entities. And so I think it is certainly possible that we can make it better.
Anthony Pura, ABC 10 News.
And here are the latest numbers. The county announced 354 new cases today, bringing our total to 49,000. There were also 7 new deaths, bringing that total to 813.
San Diego is gearing up to take part in another large COVID-19 vaccine trial. What makes this one so unique and the San Diegans being especially asked to participate?
Plus a fiery crash involving a motorcycle at a local intersection. The simple safety measures that many say could have prevented it.
And the perfect timing that helped a local team save a dying mountain lion cub. We have breaking news. San Diego police are looking for a 12-year-old girl who has been missing for several hours. Lottie Pace was last seen around Lewis and Court in Allied Gardens. She is described as 5'2", 115 pounds, and was wearing a yellow shirt with a picture of a bumblebee, blue jeans, and may have a backpack. You're asked to call police if you see her.
For the third time, San Diego is gearing up to take part in a large COVID-19 vaccine trial. This time, it's phase 3 of Johnson & Johnson's experimental vaccine. ABC 10 News reporter Mimi Alcala explains what makes this one unique.
8 Department of Defense trailers form the basis of our permanent vaccine site, our vaccine clinic in National City.
These 8 trailers set up at El Tejon Park in National City will soon become the study site for a COVID-19 vaccine clinical trial. Johnson & Johnson is looking to enroll participants around the world to take part in phase 3 of its Janssen trial, including here in San Diego.
We hope to enroll about 2,000 people in San Diego. The study will be enrolling 60,000 people internationally.
Dr. Susan Little is a UCSD professor of medicine and the principal investigator for the trial. She says it'll be a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled study meant to determine the safety and efficacy of the vaccine.
Does it reduce the frequency of COVID infection overall, or the severity of COVID infection among study participants?
Although the trial is open to all San Diegans who qualify, she says the focus will be on recruiting South Bay residents, which is why the clinic was set up in National City instead of UCSD's La Jolla or Hillcrest locations.
Communities of color have been harder hit in the sense that they have higher rates of hospitalization, and many of them have higher rates of death.
After concerns were raised over another trial that was later put on hold, UCSD worked with the Chicano Federation to ensure South Bay residents get the information they need to make informed decisions if they do want to participate.
No study is going forward unless we are confident about the safety of the vaccine.
Mimi Alcala, ABC 10 News.
Dr. Little hopes to begin the trial on Friday. Study participants must be at least 18 and in generally good health, although they can have some underlying health conditions.
The San Diego Unified School District says it removed a letter from President Trump from school lunches because it ignored the state mandate on face coverings. District Superintendent Cindy Barton said the letter misleads families, suggesting that face coverings in school are optional. A school district trustee defended that decision today.
We do not want to give them that kind of information because we're in the process of bringing our children back to school. And we don't want them coming in with the note saying, you said we didn't have to have masks, because it's right here in this letter. That is not the case.
Those lunches are filled with free groceries distributed by school districts nationwide as part of the Farmers to Family program. And the city of San Diego is one step closer to spending $106 million to house the homeless. That money would be used to buy 2 residence inn hotels, one in Kearney Mesa, the other in Mission Valley. Those hotels could house up to 400 homeless people now living in a temporary shelter at the convention center. The proposal to purchase the hotels was approved today by a council committee. The full council will make a final decision next week.
2 ISIS militants accused in the heinous murders of 4 Americans in Syria are now charged in the U.S., facing a judge for the first time. Alexander Coty and El Shafi El Sheikh were among an ISIS group called the Beatles because of their British accents. American journalist James Foley is one of the people they're charged with killing, and they will not face the death penalty as part of the U.S. extradition deal with the U.K. An appeals court has upheld an order allowing the census count to continue through October. But an end-of-the-year deadline for turning in the tally was upheld. The case will likely be appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court. The census determines federal funding and how many congressional seats every state will get.
This 10 News Pinpoint Weather Report is sponsored by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air. Nobody wows clients like we do.
We're in the midst of a bit of a cool off. A lot of people appreciating that in San Diego. Jennifer De La Cruz live from home giving us the details on that. Hi, Jen.
Hey, Kimberly, it felt so much better today, and it's going to continue as we get into the weekend. Temperatures cooling down. We're going to see a couple more clouds at the coastline, and finally our first chance of rain in what has been a very long time. We haven't had significant rain in San Diego County for months, and while this system is not going to be a strong one, at this point I think we'll take whatever we can get. Current temperature right now is 71 degrees in the downtown area, feeling a little bit cooler in places like La Jolla and Carlsbad, 69 degrees there, 61 for Ramona, and 63 degrees right now in Fallbrook. Our winds have started to die down. We do have those gusts coming out of the west, where tonight we could see up to 20-mile-per-hour gusts for East County, places like our mountains and our desert communities, and that's going to continue for the next couple of days as that storm passes to our north. So for tonight, we'll be dropping down to the mid-60s at the coast, 62 for the inland valleys, with some more increasing clouds and that marine layer pushing in overnight, and some clouds stretching as far as the inland valleys, but it should be breaking up nicely for tomorrow afternoon. Mountain areas tonight at 56 degrees with gusty winds there, and pretty breezy for our deserts as well. So overall, we're already starting to feel that cool down, and it's only going to bring our temperatures down even more so as we get into the weekend, with coastal clouds and gradual clearing throughout the day. Temperatures cooling down to below their seasonal averages by this weekend, with a light chance for showers Saturday night into Sunday. Totals will be very light with this. We're looking at just a couple hundredths of an inch, so it's not going to be very heavy whatsoever, but anything that we do get, of course, will help mitigate our fire danger moving forward. 7-day forecast looks pretty good. Temperatures on the way down through the weekend. More clouds Friday into Saturday and Sunday as well. And then as we get into next week, temperatures are going to be building once again as high pressure starts to take hold over the west as we move into next week. So enjoy the cool down while it lasts. Inland valleys for the rest of the week. Lots of sunshine there. 70s for the weekend, with a couple more clouds and a chance for showers as well. Best chance is going to be Saturday after 11 p.m. through Sunday morning at 11 a.m. And then we should be drying out after that. Mountain areas in the 60s for the next couple of days, but then once again, we will be warming up next week, so definitely take advantage of those cooler temperatures while they are here, Kimberly.
Good advice. Thank you, Jennifer. A couple from San Diego is getting national exposure for building a tiny house on wheels for less than $35,000.
What do you really need to survive these days? And there's a young couple out of San Diego, quite impressive. They built a 250 square foot house, tiny house, just by watching YouTube videos. Take a look.
Hi, I'm Saul.
And I'm Trish.
Welcome to our tiny house.
Well, you can watch more of their story on Tamron Hall. It comes up tonight at 10 o'clock, followed by 10 News at 11.
All right, very quick news update to that breaking news we brought you a little bit earlier. We are happy to report that missing girl has been found. Also tonight, Old Town is getting back on its feet, and that is great news for a lot of businesses. We're going to take you to one that's back open for the first time since March.
10news.com is your one-stop source for election information. Our Election 2020 section is filled with in-depth information on candidates and measures. And our election resource guide has everything you need to know to vote, including checking your registration status, finding your polling place, and seeing what's on the ballot in your specific part of the county. You'll also find all the key dates and deadlines to make sure your voice is heard on November 3rd.
Older adults are using cannabis to treat a variety of common health conditions. This is according to a new report published today by the UC San Diego School of Medicine. That study found of 568 patients surveyed, 15% used cannabis within the past 3 years, with half using it regularly and mostly for medical purposes. The most common reasons for cannabis use were pain, sleep disturbances, anxiety, and depression.
Old Town is starting to get somewhat back to normal, and that's giving small business owners hope. In our series, The Rebound, ABC 10 News reporter Vanessa Paz visits a coffee shop at the historic park, reopening for the first time since March.
Christafoya may have skipped an entire season of providing locals, tourists, their morning pickup. But what better season than fall for a comeback when it comes to selling hot beverages?
Old Town looks normal again on the weekends, believe it or not. Parking's hard to find, which is encouraging for us.
His tiny shop, Coffee House Old Town, nestled in the historic district, has been closed for nearly half a year, surviving similar to many through online sales.
We tried to do the curbside pickup just for like the bulk items. We definitely invested a lot more money in apps and stuff like that to help the website function properly.
Now ready to pivot from virtual interactions to real ones.
We're going to do kind of like a walk by. They can walk to the front of the store, order there through the Old Town window, through one of those old-fashioned windows. So it kind of be kind of cool. And then if they wanted to buy bulk, they can just walk in.
They'll start slow, open only on weekends at first, but
if business picks up, for sure, we're ready to go.
And if you know Old Town, you know most of these shops, restaurants have that mom and pop feel.
And all mom and pop businesses by nature are kind of stubborn anyways. So I think if we can pull through, we will pull through.
And his business was no exception amid the COVID crisis.
We filed unemployment like everybody else and have been living on that. We're hopeful, obviously. We're reopening. I know a lot of businesses didn't reopen.
Vanessa Paz, ABC 10 News.
Another frightening collision at a local intersection. The fiery crash left a man badly burned. The one safety measure people say could prevent this from happening again.
Plus, President Trump won the presidency while losing the popular vote. We explain why the U.S. picks presidents using the electoral voting system.
Skycam Views, sponsored by Carlsbad Solar. This special edition of ABC 10 News starts now.
That's all I saw. I saw a lot of flames. I saw the guy on the ground.
Growing calls for more safety measures after this fiery collision at an intersection in Hamul. As ABC 10 News reporter Michael Chen tells us, it's not the first time neighbors have witnessed tragedy on that roadway. We want to warn you, the crash video is graphic.
A week ago, just before 5 p.m., Mark Burnett was opening up his off-road racing shop along Campo Road when he heard it.
I heard the skid mark skidding, and then I heard the boom.
He ran outside and into this.
I saw a lot of flames. The guy was on fire.
Burnett raced back inside.
Get a fire extinguisher and put the bike out and him.
The motorcycle driver, a man in his 30s, suffered serious burns to his hands and legs, but survived.
Was lucky that he survived.
Burnett even more amazed when he looked at his surveillance video. In it, you can see the truck pulling into the intersection from Maxfield Road and stop before the motorcycle heading east slams into the side of the truck, exploding into flames.
It was very scary to see that video. I never thought it was that bad until I saw it.
Scary, but sadly not unfamiliar. Burnett, who's been in the area for more than 15 years, says he's seen the aftermath of some 8 serious accidents at that intersection, including a person killed crossing the road.
Turn, and it's kind of a blind turn, and you're going at, roughly about 50 miles an hour, and these people are coming out where the truck was coming out. And it's hard to judge.
Burnett now lobbying for a traffic light at that intersection, often busy with casino traffic.
There was a light there, and people knew there was a light. They have to slow down a little bit more.
He calls it a necessary safety measure to prevent a scene like this from unfolding again.
If nothing is done, I would say there's definitely going to be more accidents for sure. I mean, it could be people that could die there too. There's no doubt about it.
Michael Chen, ABC 10 News.
The CHP says the investigation into the accident is ongoing. We reached out to the county about the neighbors' concerns. We are waiting to hear back.
A construction milestone at the new Otay Mesa Port of Entry tonight. Today, crews paved the final stretch of State Route 11. It's part of that massive Port of Entry project designed to improve wait times at the border, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and improve traffic and air quality in the area.
It helps the environment, it helps the economy, it brings jobs to the region. It just positions San Diego in a great way from a holistic point of view.
When completed, Caltrans will be able to monitor wait times and air quality in real time. The project also features an innovation of European roadways, a diverging diamond interchange. It's designed to move car and truck traffic more quickly through the area.
The former Minneapolis police officer facing murder charges in George Floyd's death is out of prison. According to court documents, Derek Chauvin posted a $1 million bond today. This was the scene back in May. Cameras captured Chauvin kneeling on Floyd's neck for almost 8 minutes as Floyd said he couldn't breathe. Chauvin and 3 other former officers are scheduled to stand trial for Floyd's death next year.
The Assistant Commandant of the Marine Corps has tested positive for COVID-19 days after he and members of the Joint Chiefs of Staff were in a Pentagon meeting with a Coast Guard leader who was infected. In the meantime, President Trump is now back in the Oval Office. Here's ABC's Elizabeth Schulze.
A likely still infectious and maskless President Trump speaking out in a video produced by the White House.
Hi, perhaps you recognize me. It's your favorite president.
Trump praising the experimental drugs and steroid he received in the hospital, treatment unavailable to nearly all Americans battling COVID-19.
I want everybody to be given the same treatment as your president, because I feel great. I feel like perfect. So I think this was a blessing from God that I caught it. This was a blessing in disguise.
Moments after the video was released, Joe Biden responding.
I think it's a tragedy that the president deals with COVID like it is something not to be worried about. When already 210,000 people have died.
Amid a COVID-19 outbreak at the White House, President Trump returned to the Oval Office today. A Marine seen here standing outside of the West Wing, meaning the president was right inside. White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows saying earlier safety protocols were in place.
If he decides to go to the Oval, we've got safety protocols there that are not only from a PPE standpoint, but from a ventilation standpoint.
CDC guidelines say President Trump should be isolating for at least 10 days from his first symptoms and at least 24 hours after his fever is gone. Trump and other White House staffers have repeatedly ignored public health protocols and downplayed the severity of the coronavirus. This video taken Wednesday shows White House staffers gathered closely together having lunch, even as many of their White House colleagues are now in quarantine. At least 24 people who've been near President Trump or the White House in recent days have now tested positive for COVID-19. Meanwhile, the White House physician Dr. Sean Conley saying today President Trump has been fever-free for more than 4 days and symptom-free for 24 hours, adding the president has not received supplemental oxygen since he was hospitalized. Dr. Conley has repeatedly evaded specific questions about the president's condition before and falsely claimed over the weekend Trump had not received supplemental oxygen when in fact he had twice.
The White House physician also says President Trump now has detectable levels of antibodies. It's not yet clear if those are from the president's natural response fighting the virus or from the antibody treatment that he received. Elizabeth Schulze, ABC News, Washington.
As we approach the November election, all eyes are on a handful of battleground states. And that's because of an election procedure that a lot of people have questions about, the Electoral College. ABC 10 News anchor Derek Stahl goes in depth to explain what it is and why we have it.
When you fill out a ballot for president, you're not actually voting for the candidate whose name you see. In California, you're actually voting for 55 people you may have never heard of, a slate of electors who turn around and cast the real votes from the state capitol in December. It all dates back to 1787. The founding fathers were split on the mechanics of how to elect a president.
This was the thing that they could all agree on.
UC San Diego political science professor Daniel Butler says the Electoral College was kind of a meet-in-the-middle compromise.
There were some who were worried about giving kind of direct power to the masses. They just weren't sure they would make great decisions. On the other hand, others were really worried about having Congress to do it. Felt a lot like Parliament, felt a lot like what the British did, which is not what they were going to do.
Article 2 of the Constitution lays out how it works. Each state gets a number of electors equal to the size of their congressional delegation, their senators and U.S. representatives. California has 55 electors, the most of any state. The founders set up the Electoral College system under one big assumption, that it would be extremely rare for candidates to actually get a majority. Today, 270 votes. But that is exactly what's happened every time since 1828.
I think what frustrates many people about the Electoral College is that that majority winner in the direct popular vote isn't always who captures the majority in the Electoral College.
In 2016, Donald Trump became just the 5th candidate in history to win the Electoral College and lose the popular vote out of 58 elections. It also happened in 2000. The founders envisioned the Electoral College as a check on the popular vote, with the power to potentially choose a different candidate than the one favored by the masses. But in practice, electors almost never do that. Most states have laws requiring electors to follow the popular vote. It was big news in 2016 when 10 electors broke ranks in an effort to block candidate Trump, because in every state, electors are party loyalists, handpicked by top leaders. UC San Diego political science chair Thad Kauser says for all the recent controversy surrounding the Electoral College, there are some important benefits.
The Electoral College empowers states that are evenly divided between the voters, right? Places like Florida, like Michigan, like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Nevada.
He says the first benefit has to do with the role of money in politics.
What the Electoral College does is it focuses and narrows the playing field to these few battleground states. That's where you've got to run ads. That's where you've got to run your campaigns, not in 50 states. If we had to run 50 state campaigns, then it would cost billions of dollars to win elections and would give a huge advantage to whichever side raised the most money.
The other benefit of focusing on key swing states?
It pushes the parties towards the center, or at least much more towards the center than they would be if we got rid of the Electoral College.
Without the Electoral College, he says candidates would try to run up the score in more populous states like California and Texas that tend to be more politically polarized. Derek Stahl, ABC 10 News.
Also tonight, the tributes, they are rolling in for Eddie Van Halen. The impact he made on music beyond the world of rock and roll.
Plus, the perfect timing that helped a local team save a dying mountain lion cub.
Do love that song. The tributes are pouring in tonight for rock and roll icon Eddie Van Halen. The music legend died yesterday from cancer. ABC's Chris Connolly shows how Van Halen redefined guitar playing for a generation.
Playing with finger-tapping flair and all those sizzling skills, Eddie Van Halen was a guitar god with an impish grin and a rare gift for musical invention. Eddie Van Halen combined dazzling technique with hit-making creativity to lead his group Van Halen to chart-topping success from the 1970s to the 90s. On tracks like Hot for Teacher, he joined forces with singer David Lee Roth's state-of-the-art swagger. As Van Halen's Odd Couple kept the heavy rotation hits coming, from the speed burner Eruption to the power chords of Runnin' with the Devil. In '83, Eddie would get Michael Jackson played on rock radio, an almost unimaginable feat, with that single shred-tastic guitar solo on Beat It. Hard rock's Mozart would lead his group from FM to MTV, with the pop smash Jump, playing both guitar and synthesizer.
You might have an image of being crazy guys or whatever, but we're all poor individuals. You know, we're all different, but we work together. I think we're good.
His 1981 marriage to beloved actress Valerie Bertinelli also brought him some mainstream attention. They'd have a son, Wolfgang, before going their separate ways in 2007. Just as high profile would be Eddie Van Halen's split with David Lee Roth, replaced in '86 by Sammy Hagar, vocalist on Van Halen mega hits like Why Can't This Be Love, When It's Love, and Right Now. Eddie and Dave would re-team again in 2006, as Eddie would go on to face various health issues, would marry his second wife Janie, and son Wolf would join the band on bass. He was the best father I could ever ask for, Wolf said on social media Tuesday. Valerie Bertinelli sharing a message of her own, writing, "I'm so grateful Wolfie and I were able to hold you in your last moments. I will see you in our next life, my love." Eddie Van Halen died of cancer on Tuesday at the age of 65. His stature and influence on generations of guitarists live on, along with his pushing the limits virtuosity. Or as David Lee Roth put it, what a long, great trip it's been.
Such a legend. That was Chris Connolly reporting. A flower bouquet on a pedestal has been placed over Van Halen's handprints at the California Rock Wall of Fame Guitar Center in Hollywood.
One of a kind. A second chance for a baby mountain lion found near death. The timing that was just right for local experts to save her. Plus, the change coming to this year's Thanksgiving turkeys, courtesy of the pandemic.
It's time for an ABC 10 News Voter Fast Fact. If you're voting in person this year and you voted in California before, you don't need to bring an ID. But if you're a first-time voter who didn't include your driver's license, your California ID, or your social security number on your registration form, you may have to show ID when you vote. If you don't have one, you'll have to cast a provisional ballot. For more information on this and more Voter Fast Facts, go to 10news.com/vote.
An orphaned mountain lion cub is getting a second chance thanks to Project Wildlife in Ramona. ABC 10 News reporter Steve Smith shows how the team of experts there saved the day.
The San Diego Humane Society acquired the Fun for Animals Wildlife Center in Ramona on September 1st. The very next day, the Humane Society's Project Wildlife had their very first patient.
We got a call from California Fish and Wildlife that a firefighter had found a young mountain lion cub that was in distress up near Idlewild.
The female mountain lion cub was found semi-conscious and extremely emaciated as well as dehydrated.
When she first arrived, she looked to be in pretty bad shape, and I wasn't sure that she was going to survive.
The Project Wildlife team stepped in and provided her life-saving treatment.
Immediately gave her critical care supplies, changed, got a diet, syringe fed her, did everything that we needed to do to kind of turn her around.
And a little over a month later, it's hopeful the cub will make a full recovery.
Now she's completely stable and will most likely be going to another facility in Arizona.
Now you might think once the animals have rehabbed, they'd be let back out into the wild. Well, that's not always the case.
Because she is not hand-raised, but because she's had so much human contact now, we really can't release her back into the wild. We'd love to. Our goal is to rehab animals and release them back into the wild, but in her case, it's not a good idea.
In Ramona,
everything she needed to succeed, these folks took care of.
Steve Smith, ABC 10 News.
Pretty little girl. Project Wildlife is one of only 2 licensed rehabilitation organizations that have an agreement with the state to work with wildlife in the category of mountain lions.